So, what are we talking about, Jena? The what and the why, the why and the what of being a study tutor.
This is it. What do we do and why do we do it?
Well, I think it's a bit like the sort of Cinderella role at the trust, being a study tutor. It's kind of like nobody seems to want to be a study tutor, but actually, it's amazing. And I've been doing it for 12 years, and I'm still doing it, and I'm not planning to stop. So yeah, it's a kind of like little secret opportunity that exists. So why are we doing it, Jenna? What do you like about it?
Well, good question. I think for me, it's interesting, isn't it? So being a study tutor was my way into the trust in a way. So
Oh,
from that opportunity, like lots of other things have happened for me. So I've got lots of other roles at the trust now. But the
yeah.
beginning piece was to become a study tutor. And it's an excellent way of starting to understand the organization and how it works. Like for me, that was my way of really getting to know the trust. The other thing that I love about it is it's a way into a community of sort of like-minded people. We're not always like-minded. Sometimes they're not like-minded, but that's interesting, isn't it? And you're really challenged in your beliefs and your practices and all of that. So you're constantly learning and growing and evolving. And I think that feeds into my work as a psychotherapist and trainer and all of that.
Definitely. I think I mean when I began, I was so relieved. I remember I got these email lists through and I was like, oh, I've got these little groups of students um and I've got colleagues now because I'd been working on my own in private practice for quite some time, and that can be quite isolating. So definitely community on different levels. I felt kind of supported, and that, yeah, for me too, that led to me training. I think what stands out particularly is like, so I mean, what has been a study tutor? You're sort of helping people, helping the students have a space by having a space one-to-one and also in small groups, because studies show that, like, of all the things that can help people learn, tutorial support is one of the best things because they get a sort of tailored response. You're not in a big class. And in that space, there's a sort of pastoral element, how you're getting on, what are your needs, but the larger part of it is helping people go on a creative learning journey, partly wrapped around writing, but it begins with just how they're sort of taking in the concepts and seeing it in their lives. So I really like how it's a sort of, you're not being a psychotherapist and neither are you being a teacher. You're sort of facilitating. There's something in between.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fear that you need to know loads about psychosynthesis to do it, but I think what you need to do is be able to ask good questions and be interested in the answers rather than provide the answers. So I see myself as sort of modeling that sort of inquiry and where is this going and what are you interested in and how does this join up with that? What does this look like in your life? That's one of the great things about it, and to convey my enthusiasm for that to the students, because often people are like, oh no, I need to write an essay. It's like a sort of box that they need to tick.
Yes.
But I try to sort of remind them that they've actually paid to be on the course and that at one point in their life they actually wanted to do this. It's not like school where you have to do it. So try and tapping into their motivation, their inspiration, and seeing writing not as some kind of weird academic, dusty thing, but as something living and vital and soulful even, um, brings the teachings alive, helps you clarify what they are, but also helps them like come to life in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea that through the something about like what you said around you don't have to know everything about psychosynthesis. I like to go into it thinking, well, I know what I know, but I don't know everything. And I think there's been, so for me, I'm always open to more depth. And I think the students teach me things all the time. It's a little bit like being paid to learn, because you're just facilitating a conversation. And there's so many amazing students out there that know things I don't know, and bring that into, and I can help them contextualize that within the material. And then between us, we come up with, we're sort of evolving things all the time, and changing the way I think about things. So it's such an interesting process. And the beautiful thing is it's very relational. So as a therapist, of course, you're relational, but there's these boundaries that we hold. And with students, you can hold that a little lighter. So you get to know students a little bit more. You know, they share some of their personal stuff with you, and what's going on in their lives a little bit, at the beginning, just to include it. And so you get to know them. And for me, like, because I often work with a group through their training, so I get to see them at the beginning and go on a little journey with them and see them evolve and change, and then kind of get spat out at the end as a counsellor, which is
very satisfying.
Yeah, which is really satisfying and really lovely to. And people have difficult things happen, or challenges. They might fail their essay, or and you get to be part of their process around that, and really have an impact on how they react to it or respond to it. Yeah, so it's a very satisfying role, I think, in that way.
I think we should pay them. It's true. But yeah, you do get paid to learn. I think the questions that get asked by the students, it takes me to like a new level of like having to explain things or understand things or join things up. And it's kind of like you say, it's a co-creation. We're all kind of moving forward together. And there's always a lovely moment in any tutorial where there's that sort of fresh discovery vibe.
Good.
That's only come about because everyone's come together, and that wouldn't have happened if I just stayed home alone in my book. It's through being stimulated and seeing those different facets come out of the material.
Yeah, and I guess there's also like working with students with different backgrounds, and who bring their own background, their own worldview material, which changes it and makes it look different. So that's also quite exciting, and something you don't get if you work in these sort of close little groups of people.
It's just amazing how people like tackle the essay questions in all different directions. And I wouldn't have written my book if I hadn't been a study tutor for 12 years. I mean, not just in terms of like understanding psychosynthesis and thinking it through, but also learning so much about writing. Because I think one of my favorite lines is ideas are easy, sentences are hard. Because it's easy to have ideas and like, oh, I'm going to write this, but then actually on the page they're like sentence by sentence progression, and the paragraph by paragraph progression, and like slowing all that down is a slowed down thought process. And I've just learned so much about how to write by helping people to write. And that's really fed into my practice. So I write every day now, pretty much.
That's great.
And the process, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes me think about, like helping them bring the spirit into matter, into form. Yeah, because that's often where people get stuck, isn't it? And helping that happen, which is quite painful sometimes, but also really beautiful.
And I think the larger vision, this might feel a bit grand for just being a little study tutor, but like, we're all evolving psychosynthesis together, and that needs to happen. To keep psychosynthesis alive, we need to keep refreshing it, re-understanding it, in the light of changing circumstances in the world. And maybe students don't realize, but the little essays that they write that maybe lead to them writing a dissertation that might lead to something else is all part of a sort of community that's a sort of living tradition that's growing, evolving. So I think it's really, really important to sort of, well, I'm inspired to help people join that, if you like, and do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I notice is study tutors that come in, they're often a bit anxious about marking or all that kind of piece. And that, I mean, I have to say it's probably my least favourite part, However, it does get easier quite quickly. And I think it is something, it's like a skill you have to practice, and you get lots of support at the beginning. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, the more you've already marked that essay once, you have an idea of it. And I think it's within, it's possible. It certainly wasn't one of my strengths, and I'm managing to get away with it. So there you go.
Oh yeah, it's easy to. I've been doing it a while now. It's easy. I don't even think about it. But the actual marking, the summative marking, is like the very end point of a process, because I've worked with the student along the way and given them formative feedback at several points. There's such a familiarity with the actual final product that it's not too difficult to then write up a few comments on it. So yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Anything else? The what and why of being a study tutor?
What else? I think that's basically what it's about, isn't it? It's like there's little bits of some form to fill out and all of that, but that's not major, and it only happens once a year with each group, and you get very good at it very quickly.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of paperwork, but I think we're really lucky at the trust, because I mean I've got friends and family who work in the like universities, and they're like overwhelmed with forums, and we get away quite lightly with it, I think, at the trust, and that allows you to be there with the students.
Yes, exactly.
Which is why I'm still doing it.